Hi babe, how are you doing? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new to my channel, I'm Vera, but you can call me V, and I share amazing stories. And so if this is something you love, please subscribe and like this video, and don't forget to turn on the notifications so that when I post, you'll be notified immediately. Today's shout out goes to Pincone Smiley 718, Tracy Prince T9X, and Priscilla Frakuma AJ 7867. They were the first people to comment on my last video. Thank you so much for the support, babes. I love you. And now, without further delay, let's get right into it. If you grow up in an African home, you will understand this. There's always that one child everybody talks about. The one who makes the family proud. The one whose name is on everybody's lips. In my family, that person was my elder sister, Linda. From the day she was born, it was as if God personally picked her out and said, this one I will bless specially. She had beauty, she had brains, always top of her class, always winning prizes at school, while I was just there. At 25, she married David, a man every woman in our neighborhood secretly wished they could have. David was tall and handsome. He traveled abroad for business and drove cars that made even the men in the area stand outside just to watch him pass. Me, the second born, the one people often forgot to mention when talking about our family. No degree. I couldn't finish school because of some issues I will explain later. No job. The only money I had was what I managed to hustle here and there. And no man. Well, not the kind worth showing off. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not jealous. At least, not in the way people think. But you see, when you grow up always standing in someone else's shadow, it does something to you. You start to ask yourself why God didn't spread the blessings equally. Sometimes I will be in the kitchen washing plates, and I will hear my mother on the phone telling a friend, my Linda has traveled again. She's in Dubai this week. God is good. And then, as if to balance it out, she will add, Sandra, she's around. That is what I was, just around. But one thing about me, I have always had dreams, big dreams. I wanted to leave this country. I wanted to see snow falling from the sky, to wear winter jackets and take pictures in front of tall buildings. I wanted to walk on the streets where nobody knew me, where I could start my life again without the weight of Sandra, the forgotten one, on my shoulders. The problem, dreams need connections, and I had none. Except Linda. Sometimes when she came to visit our parents, I would watch her take out her phone, the latest iPhone of course, and scroll through pictures of her trips. One time, she showed me a video of her in New York, laughing under a Christmas tree, taller than our church building. She didn't mean to make me feel small, but she did. And so, slowly, a thought started to grow in my mind. If Linda had been blessed with all this, maybe, just maybe, I could find a way to collect some of those blessings for myself. Not still, no, I am not a thief. But life is about using what you have to get what you want. And the only thing I had was a sister with a wealthy husband. At that time, I didn't know how it would happen. I didn't have a plan yet. But I knew one thing for sure. I was not going to remain around forever. And looking back now, I realized that was the moment my story really began. The moment I decided my escape from this life will come through my sister. It happened on a Wednesday afternoon. I was sitting in my room at our parents' house when my phone rang. It was Linda. How would you like to come and stay with me for a few weeks? I need someone I trust to help with the kids while I focus on work. My heart skipped. Not because of the kids too. Let's be honest. I was not exactly the children's favorite auntie type. But Linda's house, that was another world entirely. I tried to act casual. Oh, okay, I guess I can manage. When should I come? Tomorrow, she replied, as if she already knew I would say yes. The next day, I packed my bag. My mother was so happy. She said, this is your time to learn from your sister. See how she lives. Maybe some of her blessings will rub off on you. I smiled, but inside, I thought, exactly. When I arrived at Linda's house, I almost laughed. The compound was big enough to host a wedding reception. Linda showed me to the guest room. She smiled and said, "Make yourself at home." I was still admiring the room when David walked in from work. I had met him several times before, but never like this. He smiled politely at me, and I noticed his eyes, the way they rested on me a moment too long before he looked away. Not lust exactly, but curiosity. I quickly dropped my gaze, pretending not to notice. After all, this was my sister's husband. I told myself I wouldn't go there. I would never. But deep down, some small voice in my mind whispered, this man will change your life. As much as I tried to ignore it, I couldn't help thinking about how much easier it is to dream when you are already inside the house where the blessings live. David was a kind man. At least that is how I like to remember it. It was the sort who would ask if I had eaten before he even took off his shoes. If I looked tired, he would tell me to sit down and rest while he fetched me a drink from the fridge. Not many men in this country do that, especially for someone who is not their wife. Linda, on the other hand, was always busy. She had meetings in the morning, phone calls in the afternoon, and late nights filled with work on her laptop. Sometimes I wondered if she married a career instead of David. In the evenings, after the kids were asleep, I would often find David sitting alone in the living room, the TV on, but his eyes far away. I started joining him. We would watch Nigerian movies, sometimes football matches. I am not a football fan, but I learned the names of a few teams and players so I could throw in small comments. Ah, this goalkeeper is useless, I would say, and he would laugh. It was easy to make him laugh, easier than I expected. Slowly, I began to notice things. The way he leaned in when I spoke. The way his eyes stayed on me for a second longer than necessary when I smiled. The way he listened, really listened, as if my words mattered. It is not that I planned anything, not yet. But I could see it. That little crack in his marriage, the loneliness in his eyes. And you see, loneliness can make a man do many things. Some foolish, some dangerous. I told myself, Sandra, don't get involved. This is your sister's husband. But another voice in my head whispered, if you could just get close enough, maybe it could be your way out of this country. It was only a thought, but thoughts have a way of becoming plans. Linda had traveled for a work conference in Abuja. She was going to be gone for 4 days, and it was just David and me at home with the children. The first 2 days were normal. We followed our usual routine. I cooked, helped the kids with homework, and in the evenings, David and I watched TV. But by the third night, the house felt different, quieter. I had just finished bathing the kids and putting them to bed. I went to my room, showered, and looked for something comfortable to wear. My clothes were all in the laundry basket, and in the wardrobe, I noticed one of Linda's silk robes hanging neatly on a hanger. It wasn't on purpose, honestly. It just looked soft. And I told myself I would return it before she came back. The robe was light pink, with a belt tied around the waist. When I put it on, it fell just above my knees. I didn't think much of it. Later that evening, I decided to make tea. I remember David liked it with milk and no sugar, so I made 2 cups and carried them upstairs. His door was half closed, and I knocked gently. David, do you want tea? I asked. He opened the door, and for a moment, he just looked at me, not in a rude way, not even in a way I could complain about, but his eyes stayed on me longer than they should have. I stood there, holding the tray, pretending not to notice. Should I bring it in? I asked softly. He nodded and stepped aside. We sat in his room, talking about nothing important, football, the weather, his upcoming trip to London. He laughed at something I said, and before I realized it, he was looking at me again, that same look. I didn't move closer. I didn't say anything suggestive. I didn't seduce him. When he touched me, I just didn't stop him. That night, we crossed a line I knew could never be uncrossed. And even though I told myself it was just a mistake, a small part of me knew mistakes like this don't happen by accident. A few days passed after that night, and things between David and me changed. Not in an obvious way. We didn't start sneaking around or whispering in corners, but there was a new understanding between us. When our eyes met, we both knew. One evening, we were in the living room after dinner. Linda was still away. The kids were asleep. The TV was on, but we weren't really watching. I took a deep breath. David, I began. Can I tell you something? He looked at me, curious. Go ahead. I have a dream, I said. I want to study abroad, start a new life, maybe get my degree and make something of myself. He chuckled, shaking his head. And what do you expect me to do with that information? I smiled faintly. Help me. Help you. He laughed again, this time louder. Please be serious. Why should I sponsor my wife's sister? Just like that, out of nowhere. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I just looked at him. A long, steady look. The kind that says a lot without a single word. His smile faded. He knew exactly what I was reminding him of. The silence between us stretched. Finally, he sighed. You don't know what you are asking for. I tilted my head slightly. I know exactly what I am asking for. He didn't laugh after that. A month later, I came back from the market to find an envelope on my bed. Inside was a stack of papers, admission into a college in Canada, a valid student visa, proof of paid tuition, and a one-way ticket. I sat on the bed, holding the papers, my hands shaking. When David walked into the room, I put on my best shocked and grateful face. David, this is so much. I don't even know what to say. He smiled slightly. Just make good use of it. I nodded, lowering my eyes so he couldn't see the truth in them. Because inside, I wasn't just grateful. Inside, I felt like I had finally beaten the game. The day I was leaving for Canada was bright and sunny, the kind of day people take as a sign of blessings. I wore a simple dress. My small suitcase was by my side, my passport tucked safely in my handbag. Linda insisted on taking me to the airport herself. She kept smiling the whole ride day, talking about how proud she was of me, how she knew I would do well. You see, Sandra, she said, one hand on the steering wheel. This is why you should never give up. God's time is always the best. I smiled, looking out the window so she wouldn't see my face. If only she knew God's time had nothing to do with it. When we got to the airport, she helped me with my luggage and walked me to the check-in counter. After I checked in, Linda pulled me into a tight hug. I am so proud of you, Sandra, she said, and I could hear the tears in her voice. You are finally going to make something of yourself. I always knew you would. I hugged her back, my face pressed against her shoulder. Thank you for everything, Linda, I whispered. She didn't know her husband had been sending me money. She didn't know he was the one who paid for the tickets, the school, the visa, everything. She didn't know I had already crossed the line I could never uncross. When the final boarding call came, I pulled away from her, smiling as if my heart was clean. As I walked toward the gate, I didn't look back. In my head, one thought repeated itself over and over. This is the start of my new life, one where no one will ever look down on me again. And I believed it. Oh, how I believed it. Canada was cold, colder than I had ever imagined. The first time I stepped out of the airport, the wind cut through my jacket like it was made of paper. My teeth was chattering, my nose was running, and I kept asking myself why people loved this kind of weather. I rented a small one-bedroom apartment near the school, with just a bed, a small kitchen, and a bathroom that always smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals. School was fine. I wasn't there to make friends or join clubs. My focus was simple, steady enough to maintain my visa and build a life where I would never have to depend on anyone again. David kept sending money, and at first, I would answer all his calls, laughing at his jokes, telling him about my new life. But soon, I started picking up less. I told myself it was because of the time difference, but deep down, I knew I was trying to create space. I had gotten what I wanted. I didn't need to be at his beck and call anymore. One afternoon, Linda called me. Sandra, you are new day. And I know it can be lonely, she said. I don't want you to be stranded if you need help. I have a friend whose younger brother is in Canada. His name is Kenny. He's a good man, hardworking. I think you two should connect. Before I could answer, she added, I will send you his number. Just reach out so he can check on you now and then. When a message came through, I stared at it. Kenny, he wasn't rich. From the letter Linda said, I could tell it was one of those men hustling to survive, working hard jobs, living in shared housing. I couldn't help but feel it was an insult. Linda had a rich husband who could buy her gold without blinking, yet she was introducing me to a man who probably still took the bus in winter. But I called him because in a foreign land, even an average man could be useful. Kenny was polite, warm, and eager to help. He told me which stores had discounts, where to find African food, how to dress for the weather. I told myself it was just a friendly contact, nothing more. But in my heart, I knew I was keeping him close for a reason. By my second month in Canada, I had gotten used to the routine. Classes in the day, work shifts in the evening, snow everywhere. Kenny would check in now and then. A quick call, a message asking if I had eaten, a heads up about a sale at the African store. We weren't close enough to call friends, but it was useful. He knew the city better than I did, and sometimes I needed that. Still, I kept him at arm's length. Then one evening, Linda called me. Her voice was trembling, and I could hear the sound of her breathing hard. Sandra, David is cheating on me. I froze. My heart jammed straight into my throat. For a moment, I thought she meant me, that she had finally found out. But she went on. I saw messages on his phone, some girl calling him baby, and he's sending her money. I felt so stupid, Sandra, after everything I have done for him. I kept my voice low, calm, the way you talk to a crying child. Oh, Linda, men are like that sometimes, I said gently. It doesn't mean you are not enough. I wanted to comfort her, but the truth sat heavy in my chest. She didn't know the cheating had started with me. She didn't know I had been the first other woman. When we ended the call, I sat there staring at my phone. And then another thought hit me. What if David was getting careless? If she could find proof about another woman, how long before she found me? That night, I texted Kenny to ask if he knew anywhere I could get a cheap winter coat. He replied almost instantly, happy to help. And for some reason, his quick, eager reply made me feel safer. Like no matter what was going on between Linda and David, I still had someone here in my corner. Kenny was different. He wasn't rich, but he had something I hadn't felt in a long time. Genuine care. When I caught the flu, he came over with pepper soup he had made himself. When my heater broke down during a snowstorm, he showed up with extra blankets and stayed the night on my couch just to make sure I didn't freeze. We started spending more time together. At first, it was just movies and food runs. Then it became cooking together, talking late into the night, sharing things I had never told anyone. One evening, after we had eaten, he looked at me for a long time and said, You know, Sandra, you are not what I expected. I laughed. What did you expect? I don't know. Maybe someone more cold, but you are real. I didn't reply. I just looked at him, and something in his eyes made my chest feel warm in a way I hadn't felt since before David. The first time he kissed me, it wasn't planned. We were watching a movie. His hand brushed mine, and before I knew it, his lips were on mine. It was soft, unhurried, almost uncertain. From there on, we were together, and despite myself, I fell for him. I told myself it was stupid. Kenny didn't have the kind of money or influence I had always wanted in a man, but he was a good man, and in this cold, lonely country, that mattered more than I expected. For months, it was my safe place, the one person I trusted completely. It had been almost 5 months since I arrived in Canada. Life wasn't perfect, but I had adjusted. Classes were fine. I was making a little money from my part-time job, and Kenny had become the one constant in my life. I was starting to believe I could really have it all. my independence, my new life, and maybe even a man who cared for me. Then one evening, my phone buzzed. It was a WhatsApp message from Linda. The message was short, too short. Sandra, I know everything. My chest tightened. I stared at the screen, not breathing. Before I could type a reply, another message came. I have spoken to David. I have spoken to Kenny. I hope you are proud of yourself. My hands went cold. I knew Linda. She didn't throw accusations without certainty. If she said she had spoken to David, it meant she had gotten the truth straight from his mouth. And Kenny, why was she talking to Kenny? Later that week, Kenny stopped by my place after work. He looked off. He sat on the couch, not touching the tea I gave him. Then he said quietly, Linda called me. My heart skipped. Linda, why? He looked me dead in the eye. She told me who you really are, how you got here, how you slept with her husband, your own sister's husband, just to get a visa. I opened my mouth to deny it, but the words wouldn't come. Kenny shook his head. I thought you were different. Then he got up and left. I sat there frozen. After Kenny walked out that night, the silence in my apartment felt heavier than the winter outside. I kept telling myself it would come back, that maybe he just needed space. But days passed and nothing. Then the next blow landed. David's monthly transfer stopped completely. I called him, but the line went straight to voicemail. I tried again and again until finally the number blocked me. My rent was due in 2 weeks. Tuition fees were overdue by a month. I worked extra shifts at the store, but it was like trying to stop a leaking roof with an umbrella. Then one icy afternoon, as I was stacking shelves at work, two men in black winter coats walked in and showed me their badges. Are you Sandra? One of them asked. I nodded. You need to come with me. Your residence permit has been withdrawn. It felt like someone had poured ice water down my spine. They didn't shout, they didn't drag me. They just waited while I grabbed my coat and followed them out into the freezing wind. 3 nights in a detention center, no phone, no one to call even if I had it. On the fourth morning, they told me my flight was ready. As I sat on the plane back to Nigeria, I looked out of the window, watching the clouds pass. I had left my country with my head high, thinking I had beaten the game. Now, I was returning with nothing, no love, no money, no plan, and worst of all, no one. When the plane touched down in Lagos, I didn't expect a welcome party, but I wasn't prepared for the emptiness either. No one came to meet me, no sister, no parents holding a sign with my name. Just me, my single suitcase. Home didn't feel like home anymore. Neighbors who used to smile now stared for a second too long before looking away. Some whispered, others didn't bother hiding their smirks. When I finally went to my parents' house, the hair was tense. My mother's eyes were swollen, not from joy, but from shame. My father barely looked at me. At dinner, no one spoke. And when my father finally did speak, his voice was low but heavy. Do you know what you have done to this family? In their eyes, I could see it. They knew everything. And just like Linda, they couldn't forgive me. I was a stranger in my own home. It has been 5 years now. I haven't spoken to Linda since the day she found out. I miss my sister, not just as family, but as the only person who truly knew me before my life fell apart. I regret everything I did. If I could go back, I would choose differently. My parents still don't talk about it. If the topic ever comes close, my mother's face hardens, and my father quietly leaves the room. Sometimes I feel like I am still being punished every single day, not just by my sister, but by my own family. I know what I did was wrong, but surely there should be a point where the past stays in the past. People are forgiving worse things, and I am still a sister no matter what happened. I want to reach out to Linda to tell her I have changed, that I am still family. I believe if she just heard me out, really listened, she will see I have really changed. I really miss her. We are still family. It cannot be like this forever. How do I make her see that 5 years is enough punishment? How do I get her to finally forgive me? So this sender needs advice. Please leave your thoughts down below. She's saying it's been 5 years. She misses her sister. How can she get Linda to forgive her? Leave your advice down below. Now, babe, you said something about 5 years being enough punishment for what you did. Forgiveness doesn't work by counting years. So 5 years doesn't erase what you did. You betrayed your sister in the worst way. And that kind of hurt takes more than time to heal. And even if she forgives you in her heart, it doesn't mean she will let you back into her life. If you reach out, do it with a real apology and no demands. Don't expect her to welcome you. And babe, accept that she may ignore you forever. Sometimes losing someone is the price you pay for hurting them. What you did was really messed up, and I hope you've really learned from this. And now, Abi, you know that this is a judgment-free zone. We're listening. We don't judge. So please be kind to her in the comment section. And if you've not subscribed yet, babe, please subscribe and like this video. And don't forget to turn on the notifications so that when I post, you'll be notified immediately. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope you enjoyed this new video style. See you next time. Okay, I'm done. Bye.